My community gives me the confidence to ask myself, what would you like the power to do? So every time I'm on the pitch, I play for more than myself.
Oh, what a tackle from Naomi Girma. Absolutely brilliant.
Bank of America champions U.S. Women's National Team member Naomi Girma, and everyone who dares to ask, what would you like the power to do? Bank of America, proud to be the official bank of U.S. Soccer. Bank of America N.A., member FDIC.
Stitch Fix. Stop shopping. Get styled.
Not today, sweatpants. Somebody's wearing jeans that fit.
Wow! No photos, please. I'm just a regular dad who happens to have a stylist.
I really look my best when someone else makes the decisions.
Hey, we can all see you two-way mirrors.
Just share your size, style, and budget, and your stylist sends personalized looks right to your door. Stitch Fix. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
I want to hug you. I'm going to hug you. I'm coming in for a hug.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast with your hosts, Kyle Borganoni and Matthew Betz.
Welcome in. It's Friday, May 22nd here. Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. I'll be your host, Kyle Borganoni, and I'm joined, as always, by Matthew, one of the boys of the summer bets.
Ah, man, summer is here, baby. I cannot wait for the summer. It's going to be great. You know what I really can't wait for, Kyle? There's this thing that two doofuses make every year. Comes out on June 1st. And that's when I know summer is here. Have you ever heard of this thing called the Best Ball Primer? I mean, everybody is talking about it. I was at the grocery store the other day. Overheard somebody in the milk aisle. They're like, man, I cannot wait for June 1st. Like, oh, what's on June 1st? The Best Ball Primer from Borg Betz is out. Summer is here. And I was like, you know what? You're right. Dude, 8 days away. 8 days away. And it's a reminder every time I get to this part of the year, the calendar, it's like, you forget how much you have to do in a short amount of time. So, full court press, Kyle, to June 1st. Here we go.
It is a funny part of the calendar. I had a friend that was asking me about it, like, hey, what are you guys talking about on the podcast this time of the year? And I was like, well, we have something that comes out June 1st. And then they go, wait. My draft isn't until August. What are you guys talking about? And I was like, buddy, there are so many things to talk about when it comes to the Ultimate Draft Kit, especially when you and I put in that extra effort to go to the Best Ball Primer. I do have a task, though, that I want to do this year.
A new task?
A new task. I know I'm going to add something to my plate.
Okay.
I'm going to try
I'm not necessarily agreeing to this yet. I want to hear this first.
Like, I'm one of those people that I'm very tactile. I like writing out my schedule. I like having a hard copy of a book. I'm going to print out the UDK this year, the UDK Plus. I'm going to get it bound.
You should do that, and we'll send it to somebody. You could sign it. We'll send it to somebody.
Oh, I really wanted it for myself.
Oh.
It's like a book that we wrote.
You could put it right on your bookshelf in your office. You know, just one. I picture like a rainy afternoon. You're sipping on a cup of tea. You know, boys are at some event doing something. You got some free time. You're like, you know what? I would love to just. What's Lamar Jackson doing this year? And you just pull up the UDK blurb. You start reading about him. Look at the stats. Look at the rankings. That does actually sound kind of nice.
I want. Oh, fine, I'll do that. I'm going to print out 2 of them. One for myself. All right, and then one we can just put in the mail for somebody that's, just for fun. Maybe we'll throw in like Shopballers gift cards and some other fun stuff there. But I'm obviously going to itemize the receipt. I'm not paying for this. This is corporate.
I was going to say, you might have to take this thing to like a FedEx or whatever and get this thing printed off if you do it at home.
Now,
you would say like 8 friggin' cartridges of ink to get this thing printed.
Correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't know the paper industry like I used to. I knew the paper industry, obviously, in Scranton, PA, and the way that works with some
Electric
of those
City, of course.
Yeah. I feel like Staples isn't doing well. Is Kinko's alive?
I can't tell you the last time I've been into Staples, so not great. My wife, your wife is a teacher. You used to be a teacher. My wife used to be a teacher. She would like live at Staples back in the day, but it's been a while. It's been a minute, as the kids say.
Yeah, what a part of our American experience that has just gone down the tube, thanks to good old Amazon, which, by the way, Love some Amazon. If they want to sponsor everything and anything, we can do that. But, just the Office Max, the Kinkos, Office Depot, all those guys, dead.
Dead. Well, it was simpler times back then, Kyle.
It was a lot easier. On this episode, we will go through the NFC win totals last week. If you want to run through the AFC teams, we went through those in an episode. I feel like we came out with some great bets, some great value bets. One that I keep coming back to, I just want to mention at the top of the show in case you didn't, is the Bengals. I kind of said it in passing. I was like, hey, I kind of like the price on the Bengals to win the division. We got the exact order and all the lines. I got to share some of those. The Bengals are favored in 15 of 17 games. They have the 4th highest average implied total. And I feel like they're still being underpriced. So tell me, am I connecting the wrong dots here? Am I too high on a team that consistently falls short of expectations?
I heard one Joe Burrow in an interview 2 days ago. He said, look, the pieces are here to win a Super Bowl. We just have to do it. And I feel like he was just talking to you. Like it wasn't a question for a reporter. It was just like right to you.
My guy, Joe Burrow.
Right to your account, your sportsbook accounts. Just hit the button. Hit the button, man. Come on. We can do this. They do have the 3rd easiest schedule in the league. So you tell me.
There's value in a division that we know they'll beat each other up. We've talked about that. But to win the division, their win totals at 9.5 juice to the over. You and I just like a lot of the spots that they're in. Who knows if the defense is going to be that much better? I mean, improved in some way. They added in free agency. But it was just nice to walk through those teams and then go, man, I feel really good about some of the decisions that we made. On this episode, when we talk NFC, I don't feel great about really giving any overs in the NFC.
Thank goodness. Because every time we give out an over, a little bit of me just, I get sick, It's like, I can't physically recommend doing this. And I'm not going to lie, when we took the over on the Broncos, I don't want to spoil the podcast for anybody that listened last week or didn't listen last week. It's my thumb was like hovering, it was like shaking. I was like, do I really want to do this? But yes, thank goodness we only have unders today because that's actually how I sleep at night. We took 1 over last week. We will take 0 overs today. And I do have some interest in some markets that we'll talk about on today's show that are like alternatives, like, win NFC, win the division, stuff like that. But like as far as an over on a win total, we don't have any of those today. So if you subscribe to undersonly.com, then this is the show for you.
We still haven't gotten that domain, have we?
We will. It's just on the list, after the UDK comes out. It's lower priority right now. I'm
very scared to type in that URL while I'm on the podcast in case it is something that is not good.
Somebody out there listening is like, hold on, let me find out for you guys.
Undersonly.com. If you want all of our picks throughout the year, we mention the Ultimate Draft Kit because it is something we pour our heart and souls in to our whole team. Just looking at the word count right now, it's going to end up probably around 80 to 90,000 words, which if you're in the book industry, that's a good book. It's a great book I can recommend. So ultimatedraftkit.com. Some of our season-long props are already out there, and we will continue to add all throughout the summer as we get you closer to kickoff. It's this sweet little spot in the calendar where May kicks off the summer of best ball. We draft a ton in June, and a lot of the episodes we do on this podcast are best ball focused. And then as we move to August, we will get you even more focused in how you win in DFS and your weekly props. So I can't recommend enough what we get to pour everything into. And we think that you can actually make your money back, which is a wild promise to be able to say. So any last things you want to say? What have you been blurbing in the Ultimate Draft Kit?
Oh, the most recent one I got to work on was the wide receiver room for the Raiders. And I got to the Raiders.
You tapped
and
out.
I said, Kyle, can you do this one? I had done like 30 blurbs that day, so I was just like done. I got to the Raiders and, Jalen Naylor was like the player I was about to do. And I was just like, I know, self-scouting. Right now, I'm not the freshest to do this. I don't have the right energy to do this. So I was either like, what, I'll do it tomorrow. Or I just said, Kyle, hey, call in a friend here, phone a friend. So Kyle did the Raiders. You can check that out. But lots of wide receiver blurbs. Always updating the injury blurbs, which that's an ongoing thing with guys like Rashee Rice and Malik Neighbors and all those guys. So you'll have all that in the Ultimate Draft Kit too. And then we just finished up the Sleepers Bust breakouts, and value picks from the guys, which I'm excited to have them unveil here in just over a week.
I actually got some energy when you threw the ball to me. I've just been sitting on a 3-point line. You've been driving. You passed it over. And here am I with the opportunity to blurb Jalen Naylor, Trey Tucker, and then just for the heck of it, I got to blurb Jack Besh. I came alive.
Couldn't be more back.
Yeah.
The Besh boys are here.
UltimateDraftKit.com. Let's move on.
We're gonna win. We're gonna win!
Last episode, we kind of gave some overarching thoughts about how we approach win totals. And it's not simply saying, I'm walking through a schedule, that's a win, that's a loss. To keep it short, every single team has a win probability. This is played out in your sports books when you see a money line, when you see a spread, all of those things. And we try to keep those, we try to take those into account when we look at the win totals that sports books have, the strength of schedule, which we draw from Warren Sharp, and then something we've leaned on over the years, my schedule adjusted projections, which take into account historically, this is what a team has done in division, and historically, this is what a team has done based on their schedule. So we're going to start with the NFC East. And before the show, we have our banter, we're talking. And of course, Betz says, hey, I really like the Eagles to win the division. And I say, cool, man. I could have guessed that. We could have just never done this show, and I could have guessed that. But there is value right now. And we'll walk through this division, NFC East. But tell me why you think your team is going to be good.
Yeah, the two bets for today, and we can just cut it off here. Eagles to win the division, Falcons to win the division. We're done. In all seriousness, it's just schedule-based, quite honestly, with this group of four. So obviously we have the Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, and Giants. And before I kind of talk through that, I really do think this could be one of the most competitive divisions in football because I think the Giants have a chance. We'll talk about their projection and everything here in a minute. A chance to be really good. Just thinking about the Harbaugh years and kind of how that they have built their defense. They obviously have edge defender after edge defender after edge defender in every single draft. They build up the trenches. I think the Giants could kind of surprise some people in the right tail outcomes. The Commanders, it's okay, just a couple years ago, they were playing the Eagles in the NFC Championship game. Jaden Daniels had all those injuries last year. If they kind of bounce back, you could see them being a 9 or 10 win team, obviously. And then it's the Cowboys, right? They put investments in the defense. Their offense has been one of the best in the league since Dak took over. So you could obviously see that working out. But when I think about it, just the path for the Eagles right now, just from a schedule standpoint, Cowboys are 29th in the league in strength of schedule. The Commanders are 25th. The Giants are 24th. Then you have the Eagles at 7th. That is a massive, massive advantage against their division. And so I don't have a strong take on the 10.5 for Philly or really many of the teams in this division, but I just think when you're looking at how many games they're favored in, the strength of schedule, and the fact that a lot of the pushback over the last, 12 months, it's so funny how in the NFL, it's either amazing or terrible and there's nowhere in between. The Eagles offense, when they won the Super Bowl, could do no wrong, right? It's this team is amazing. Offensive line's great. Saquon's great. Hurts is doing his thing. AJ Brown's great. Everything's great. And last year, everybody hates everybody, just 7 months after winning the Super Bowl. But if you take a step back and you kind of think through the weeds, it's well, the offensive line was way more banged up. You could naturally spot regression in all the Saquon long touchdown runs. The scheme was a huge issue with Patullo and how much of that is Hurts versus Patullo, and that's a whole other thing. But it's right now, there's so much FUD on the Eagles where it's guys, this team has been to 2 Super Bowls in the last couple of years. Jalen Hurts has outplayed Patrick Mahomes in both of those Super Bowls. I'm not buying what people are saying about Hurts where it's can't throw over the middle of the field. He's not a passer. Am I saying he's the best quarterback in the league? No, of course not. But he is good enough to win. He's a proven winner. This team will have better luck, most likely, on the offensive line from an injury perspective. And when you look at the defense, it's still one of the best units in the league, and they still have Vic Fangio running the show there. So for me, I'm just kind of selling what people are saying about this team, considering their schedule, and that's really what it is. And it comes down to price, too. You can get this at plus 140 on FanDuel, which I think is an awesome price. It's definitely not as playable on other books, in my opinion, but I like that a lot. And the other thing, too, that I'll come back to real quick before we wrap up on Philly is yes, AJ Brown is likely to be moved, right? And when you consider what that does to an offense, it's not good. Right? Losing A.J. Brown is not good. This is a top-tier wide receiver, even at this point in his career, in my opinion. So you say, how does it get mitigated? Well, look at the schedule. Only the Vikings project to have an easier pass defense schedule in the entire league than the Eagles. So even if Hurts is not an MVP caliber player, and even if losing A.J. Brown isn't amazing, it's like, I think there's enough here to compensate that, especially because the schedule is as easy as it is. So that's really what it comes down to, is just the schedule discrepancy between the other three teams in this league, and then Philly there, easily the most doable schedule in the league.
I actually think as an offense, they have more versatility this year in drafting Lemon, in drafting Eli Stowers. They still have Goddard that gets to play his role on the team and not, steal so many red zone touchdowns. But going back to the schedule, they have a first place schedule. So you might say to yourself, whoo, that could be tough. Their games are Carolina at home, at Chicago, which should be a great one, and then Pittsburgh at home. So of the draw of first place games, it's what we did with Denver, right? We're like, this is a first place team. It's not as hard as some of the other ones we'll talk about later on. So I'm totally fine with that. They have road games at Arizona and at Tennessee, so those should be easier road games. I think plus 140 is a better bet than the over 10.5 wins, although I don't think that's egregious either. I think over 10.5 wins is also fine. I think they're the class of the division until somebody else unseats them, because when I look at Dallas, Washington, and the Giants, they all have bottom 10 schedules, meaning like one of the hardest schedules, and the Eagles are 7th easiest in Warren Sharp. So there's like a huge discrepancy in what we think talent-wise in the division, and then the schedule places them even further ahead.
Yeah, for sure. And just to kind of speak to that, like Dallas gets the second place games. Their second place schedule is Tampa, at Green Bay, home against Baltimore. Like, it's definitely harder than the Eagles, right?
Yes.
Like, it doesn't make sense. And then, hey, the Giants, congratulations, you get to play on the road for one of your fourth place games against the Lions. So that's what it comes down to, is really some schedule based stuff here with Philly. I wouldn't be surprised if they're a 9 or 10 win team, but like the Cowboys and Commanders are also kind of sitting there at 7 or 8 wins, right? So it's more just a play on the number. Plus 140 is a price that I'm definitely interested in.
The Cowboys are at 8.5 wins. My schedule adjusted wins have them at 9. So this is one of those that stands out to me. And before I looked at the lines, like, okay, well, where are the Cowboys at in the division? But depending on which book you look at, like BetMGM, the over's at minus 165. So that's kind of already baked in. I don't like paying that price. We know how bad the defense was this past year. They drafted Caleb Downs, which I love on many different levels for the team. And hopefully they have some better injury luck. I just think the Cowboys feel like a stay-away team. I could see 9 wins, but I'm not paying minus 165.
Yeah, I don't really have much on the Cowboys this year.
All right, let's go to the Commanders. 7.5, another team that I like better than their win total. The over's just at minus 130. So when you look at the team last year, Jay Daniels only played in 7 games. Daniels and McLaurin only played in 3 games together. So there's really just like no continuity there. The offense got really old from all of those players. I'm still trying to figure out the running game and how they're going to mix in Bill, mix in Rashad White, Jerome Ford, Katron Allen. Like, it feels like the adage we always say, like, a bunch of nickels, but this isn't a dollar. So I'm a little worried about some parts of the offense being able to function the way they did 2 years ago when it was just an outlier unit. And then the defense, right? The defense was 32nd in yards per game allowed, 31st in turnovers. Could you see this team bouncing back to be in the playoffs? That's like the market that I'm a little bit more interested in.
Yeah, I think I can see that. And the reason I'd buy that is just because Jaden Daniels, I think, is just kind of that guy, right? Like, we saw that a couple of years ago as a rookie, but unfortunately year 2 was kind of a disaster, mostly from an injury perspective. But at the same time, you think about what that team did his rookie year, rather. I worry that like sometimes teams kind of self-scout and say, what worked? Let's just do that again. And what worked that year was like outlier production from Jaden Daniels with teammates that he elevated. And I feel like they're looking at the roster and they're saying, okay, Jaden, you've got Terry, but it's your job to elevate everybody else. And that can be a scary proposition unless that quarterback is truly an outlier. And maybe Jaden Daniels is. I think it's too early to say yes or no. But like, my concern on the Commanders from a floor perspective is yes, I think Terry is an awesome pick this year in best ball where he goes. Jaden Daniels is way too cheap where he goes for best ball because you're talking yourself into those right tail outcomes. If it goes south, it will go south extremely quick because they do not have a wide receiver too. Like, there is major concern here on the depth of the skill group. And sure, Brandon Ayuk's kind of been the name that people are penciling in. Maybe it's Steph Diggs. But, like, I don't know if Brandon Ayuk even wants to play football anymore. And I don't even know how healthy he is. And nobody knows how healthy he is, right? So it's like, I don't want to factor that stuff in when it's not set in stone. So I think the floor on this team is very low. I also could see a world where Jaden elevates his teammates again and they go on a run. The concern for me defensively is I do think Sonny Styles was like an awesome fit for this defense. Generally speaking, linebackers do not change much of the equation for win totals and team performance. So do they go from bottom 3 in the league to 20th in the league? Maybe. Does that matter? Probably not, right? So for me, just kind of talking through it, I'm more about investing in this team, I think, from a best ball perspective where you talk yourself into how things go really well. But I could see this being a really, really difficult run out again, especially if something happens to Terry and obviously Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, maybe that's a better way to look at it. I was looking at the average game totals of what we have. I'm looking at DK Sportsbook. So taking all the totals they projected for the year of in week 1, Washington's is at 46.5. Week 2 is at 51.5. They have the 6th highest average game totals. They're going to be in some games that are shootouts. Dallas is number 1 at 50.4. So there will be some fun games in this division. Maybe a better way to invest is in best ball and just say, hey, they have these shootout outcomes. Jaden is cheaper than he's been before. Terry's also cheaper than he was, what we were paying this past year. So maybe that's a better way to look at it. But if I had to pick one direction, I'd probably lean towards the over, which is what my projections are at. And the Giants are also at 7.5. I'm seeing minus 110 on both sides, and my projections lean towards the under. I feel like I've been a little bit mean towards the Giants, towards Jackson Dart recently. I think I talked about it on the Dynasty podcast, but I feel like their schedule lends itself to this team, just down the stretch, just not doing well.
Yeah, they're a tricky team for me. I mean, I generally trust your numbers here because you've been pretty good in this market, and you're showing 6.9 on a 7.5, and at minus 110, that's an interesting play. If this was minus 140, I'd say, probably not. But thinking through it, this is a team that I think is set up to have a decent start to the season. They get the Cowboys, okay, it's a divisional game, anybody could win that one. They go on the road to the Rams, that's going to be tough. But then they come home for Titans and Cardinals. You get to week 5, 6, you're okay, Commanders, Saints. You can see those games being winnable for the Giants. So I don't know if I'm playing this right now, but the way that I do want to play it is if they do get off to a good start. Let's say they're, a game above 500 entering the bye week or something like that. In week 7, it goes on the road at the Texans, on the road at the Eagles. They get the Commanders. They're home again against the Jaguars, Colts, and then this is where this is where I'm selling basically down the stretch. Niners, Seahawks, okay, Browns, whatever. On the road with the Lions, Cowboys, Eagles to finish it up. So if this team gets off to a good start, I'd be looking at maybe a live under. I don't know, week 5, week 6, they get to an 8.5 or something in the market, or have a bid of 9.5. I would love to come in under on that. So I don't know if I'd play it right now, but the end of the season schedule to me is the sell here on a team that I could see it going either way, quite honestly.
I like that. Another bookmark in the book.
Yeah, unless you feel strongly about it, which we can take as an official if you feel good about it.
It feels like a lot of pressure live on a podcast.
That's your call, dude. I mean, these are your numbers. This is your spreadsheet.
This is, I can hear somebody listening to this podcast be like, you're such a wuss. Come on. You're a DFS and betting podcast. You're talking about these numbers, and then you guys end up not doing anything. So I lean towards the under based on the price at minus 110. If you can find a better price out there, I'm even more interested. But yeah, 7.5. If it gets out to 8.5 during the season, that sounds even better.
Hold on real quick. Before we move on from the Giants, what is your take on their roster makeup with how they want to play?
Okay, that's what I was going to bring up too, because, Jackson Dart came out, was talking about how they want to run the ball. He even said during a recent town hall meeting with Giants fans and reporters, it sounds like we're not going to be throwing the ball a lot. We're going to keep giving it to Scadaboo until they can stop it. And then Scadaboo, of course, is like, well, I ran for 400 yards on 100 carries. That means I'm running for 2,000 this year.
That was good.
I worry about the ancillary weapons on this team. It's Slayton, it's Mooney, and it's Malachi Fields, a player that we weren't very high on. To be impactful for the team, as much as we clown on Wandale and some of his inflated numbers, like, he did earn targets in the offense. I have a hard time figuring out who that person is going to be in this offense apart from Neighbors this year. And Scadaboo, like, another thing we need to say about Dart is he was different down the stretch, where they just didn't give him the design runs. This is a completely different offense. Daboll's offense, fantasy friendly. Nagy offense, I can't trust it the same exact way. So I would just say that's a pen in the cap of, like, I just think there's risk here with the team taking a step forward, which is kind of like what they're being branded at as Jackson Dart, young quarterback. They get the right coaching staff in place. They're young. They got Scadaboo, Neighbors. They're going to be stepping forward. And it's like, I just think a lot of things have to go right on offense.
I agree. I mean, the Harbaugh philosophy, right? He's kind of like a CEO coach right now, but he's been historically in his past throughout his career more defensive minded. He's a former special teams guy. So when you think about the old school mentality of we got to run the ball, we got to stop the run and field position, it's like, okay, in 2001, that worked. And maybe if you have the personnel to do that, that will work. But the problem for me that I keep coming back to is, like, if the front office is saying, hey, we got to protect Jackson Dart. For years, what made the Lamar Jackson offense, historically going back to Harbaugh with the Ravens, like, the cheat code is his legs. So if they're going to cap that, I'm not saying they will, I just think it's possible they do. That's a major problem. And then when he does have to drop back to pass, like you said, if Malik Neighbors is slow off of this ACL and meniscus injury, let's say it's like week 9 before he's really himself, man, that is a thin needle to thread when you think about, is Isaiah likely the top target here? Like, that can't be a winning solution, right? And then you say, okay, well, no, they're just going to run the ball. Your running back, who I do think he gets back to form eventually this year, but your running back is coming off an ankle fracture plus a dislocation. You can say all this stuff in May, and it sounds great to be like, we're giving him 21 carries a game, we're stopping the run, and we're going to play great defense. But if he's not fully healthy, are you giving Tyrone Tracy 18 carries a game? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so when you go down and you kind of layer by layer, break it down, it's like, it feels fragile to kind of think that way. So maybe now that I talk through this, maybe we should take this under. But I do think it's under or nothing for me. But I really think if they do happen to win a couple of games early on, you'll get a better number than 7.5. Sounds like a great slogan for a t-shirt. Under or nothing for me. I would wear that shirt every day. I like it. Let's take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
The Memorial Day sale returns May 21st to 26th at Paragold, the destination for luxury home. Get ready to take up to 25% off Design's best brands. Start building your wish list now at Paragold.com.
Stitch Fix. Stop shopping. Get styled.
Not today, sweatpants. Somebody's wearing jeans that fit.
Wow! No photos, please. I'm just a regular dad who happens to have a stylist.
I really look my best when someone else makes the decisions.
Hey, we can all see you two-way mirrors.
Just share your size, style, and budget, and your stylist sends personalized looks right to your door. Stitch Fix. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
I want to hug you. I'm going to hug you. I'm coming in for a hug.
We are back talking NFC North win totals. The Bears went from worst to first last season, which was really fun to see. They're at 9.5. The Packers are at 10.5, second place schedule. The Vikings at 8.5, and then the Detroit Lions with a fourth place schedule and Warren Sharp's easiest schedule are at 10.5 wins. So this is an intriguing division, a bunch of teams that are good and we think, man, can do really well. There's only one that stands out to me a lot from a win totals perspective, but I think you can play around with divisional odds and who makes the playoffs and whatnot. But let's start with the Bears. First place this past season, lost to the Rams in the NFC divisional game. And the biggest story was Ben Johnson coming in. They made a massive jump as an offense. They averaged 7.7 more points per game. So they went from 28th to 9th. And the offensive line was kick butt the entire year. You saw that with Caleb and his sack rate, everything else. This team, I feel like, is built to be competitive for years to come, which is really cool to see. Like, hey, you guys built through the draft. You found the right coach. You have a system in place. And now, hopefully, you can keep adding to that defensive side of the ball over the next couple of years, and this team can really be competitive. What would you say their outlook is for 2026?
They're a tricky team. They're really tricky because, on one hand, I don't want to be betting against Ben Johnson with his second season and Caleb in the second season in the system where quarterbacks historically take a next step, right? And the talent has never been the question on Caleb. It's been some of the negative plays, the turnovers, the sacks, all that sort of stuff. And that was cleaned up in a major way last year. So it's like if he keeps that trajectory going and you can see him having a higher ceiling in another year in the system, the offense, I think, can be awesome. The concern for me is that the way that they played last year isn't really sustainable, right? They were kind of like, if you look at their first half points scored per game compared to like the second half and really the fourth quarter, it was basically come from behind efforts to steal a game multiple times throughout the year. And you even saw that like down the stretch, I think about the playoff games and stuff like that, where like the Bears were so fun to watch every week because you're like, what are we going to get in the third and fourth quarter and maybe overtime to make this the most entertaining game of the week? It was like always the Bears, right, coming back. So that's just not sustainable. Then you ask yourself, okay, if that regresses, are they just better, start to finish? Or if they have some of those first half issues, does it kind of bite them in the butt? They lose games that they would have won the year before and all that sort of thing. So for me, I'm kind of staying away from Chicago. I could see it going one of two ways where, I don't really have a strong take either direction, but I just think there's pros and cons to each of this number. I will say they do have the biggest net rest advantage in the NFL, and historically that has been a positive indicator for team success. Per Warren Sharp, it is the number 2 largest net rest advantage since 1990. Before I was born, Kyle. I'm a 91 kid, okay? Before I was born. So do I want to bet against that? Not really. So for me, I'm staying away from Chicago. I will say it's kind of interesting to see where they're lying. Like the juice is on the under 9.5. Yet I feel like if you ask anybody in the league about the Bears, they'd be like, "Oh, they're making the playoffs this year. Like they're going to win a playoff game, right?" So there's a mismatch, I think, in like the general consensus on the team versus like what the market is saying. So when those things happen, like it's really tough for me to buy in one way or the other. Again, tricky team to peg down because it kind of all comes back to that like unsustainable way they played last year. At the same time, you love Ben Johnson, you love Caleb, you love the weapons they have. I could see them winning 10 games.
I can too. I mean, in the division on DK right now, they're at plus 320. So that one's kind of intriguing considering what they did this past year. Their placement games are tough. Philly at Seattle, Jacksonville. But then they also have some other matchups where they're playing the NFC South, which we'll talk about in a second. So New Orleans, Tampa Bay, at Atlanta, at Carolina. Easier division. They also get games with the Jets at home and at Miami. So I feel like it kind of balances out where the line feels good at 9.5. It's crazy to see the difference in how successful they were running the ball. Caleb actually ran less than he did before, and yet his rush success rate was awesome. Like he did what he was supposed to do, especially on third downs. And you brought up all those outlier stats when they got to fourth quarter and overtime. Like Loveland was insane in that quarter alone. They also on offense, like they had a Dunze have an injury, and then Burden was kind of banged up, but I feel like the core of the group like kind of remained intact for most of the year. So we'll see offensive line wise if they stay there. I think it's just a good team, and I think 9.5, 10 wins feels about right. So I'm probably going to stay away and figure out some other markets. I do think defensively we need to bring up that they were third in turnovers forced, yet 29th in yards per game allowed. That will not hold up over another year.
That's what I'm saying. They're a scary team because I think there's some regression signals here where it's like, you look up at the end of the year and you're like, how did the Bears win 7 games in 2026? Like, they're better than that, right? But if the turnover luck doesn't go their way, if the fourth quarter comebacks aren't a thing, you could see that scenario playing out. So for me, I'm staying away because I don't want to bet against good quarterbacks and good play callers, but you can see it for sure.
Let's go to the Packers. This is one of the lines that I feel pretty strong about in my projections. Their win total's at 10.5. When I'm looking at my projections, I have them at 9.9, which is signaling an under. The thing about the Packers is in a couple of areas, they are making a bet on our wide receiver depth, we've been doing this rotation, it's going to be Matthew Golden and Christian Watson this year. And we're hoping that both of these players who have, Golden didn't really show anything till the playoffs, and Watson, who's had the most up and down career, of anybody, like, this is going to work. Tucker Kraft coming off a major injury. There's just things that they have to figure out on top of losing their defensive coordinator. So there is some systemic risk and change this year. But I think my biggest issue with the Packers is they've always lived off of efficiency as an offense, especially Jordan Love, who I like as a quarterback, but he's not going to have the raw passing volume that you want of other quarterbacks. Like, he's not going to, throw for 4,500 yards like a Joe Burrow. He's going to live and die based on a lower completion percentage, but a really high yards per attempt. And last year on third down, he led the league with 9.2 yards per attempt on third downs, way off his career average and way off from basically anybody else in the league. I think when you have that much success on third down, that doesn't translate year to year.
Yeah, the third down thing is tricky because I was looking a little bit more like historically what the top two teams in the league have done over the last, 5 or 6 years going back to 2020. And generally speaking, there's been a couple seasons where that team does not regress. Those quarterbacks were Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes, who kind of just back-to-back on third down were money year over year. Historically, the teams that are finishing in the top 2 or 3 in this metric do fall off, and sometimes significantly year over year on third down. Green Bay was second in the league on third down conversion rate last year. So you ask yourself, okay, if they regress there a little bit, and maybe Jordan Love's efficiency isn't as outlier on third down, they're stalling out a few more times, they're punting, you invite variance into the games, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think under is certainly the play here, especially because what you mentioned was some of the concerns from a health perspective. You mentioned Tucker Kraft. Obviously, he's a huge piece of the puzzle offensively for what this team does. Defensively, Micah Parsons, I think is sneaky a PUP candidate or very limited to start the year. So you're thinking about a team losing their defensive coordinator, not going to have an all-pro type of edge rusher, likely healthy for the start of the season. That's a big concern. And then also just like the division that they play in, right? Like there was a year, I forget when it was, when like all these teams went like 2-2 in the division or something like that. Wasn't that happening recently with this team or this division where it's like, yeah, you could see them winning a game and losing a game to the Lions. They could win a game and lose a game to the Bears. And the Vikings will be, I think, certainly more competitive this year than they were last year. So you're looking at all those factors. The division is very tough. They have some health concerns. They have some kind of just natural regression concerns. And your projections showing under seems like an easy play for me. So I found the best line for this was minus 135 on Bet365. There's some minus 140s out there, which is okay. I don't love, but when your projection shows this much of an edge, I think it's worth playing.
Their opening schedule, I will say, is advantageous for the team. Like, they're favored in their first 6 games. They're favored of their first 10 in 8 of them before their week 11 bye. So there are some things that like make me pause a little bit. And depending on your book, like the under is juiced minus 140. You saw minus 135 out there. It's an interesting team because I think we would say the Packers are solid and they would be worse in the AFC, but because the NFC is a little bit more diluted, like there's room for them to make the playoffs again and be a 10-win team or 11-win team. I pause on some of the offensive efficiency. They're betting on Josh Jacobs and nobody else behind him to really be a thing. They also have a Thursday night game against my Falcons at Lambeau that we are just going to get crushed. I was looking at the schedule. We have this stretch where the Falcons play like 3 primetime games in a row. Then that's the only primetime games we have. And I was like, oh God, we got to go to Lambeau. So, I mean, they could start off hot at Minnesota. That's a coin flip, really. At the Jets and then the Falcons. So I think I just lean under, but you're willing to pay the minus 135?
I am, yeah.
Okay. Let's move to the Vikings. I don't have as many thoughts here because I think the line is right. It's 8.5. The over and under are both at minus 110. I think the line basically is baking in like Kevin O'Connell. I think he's a good coordinator, and I think Kyler can be better than what J.J. McCarthy was, but this was a 9-win team last year, sneakily.
I know, it's surprising, right? Because they kind of got hot down the stretch. Carson Wentz led team, won 9 games, never forget. Yeah, you're right. The market is kind of basing in the idea of like, well, it can't get worse. And J.J. McCarthy was truly terrible, so probably can't get worse. And let's not forget, Max Brosmer started the game in Seattle, and it did not go well. So even if Kyler isn't...
He's not allowed back in the league.
No, goodness gracious. Man, I felt so bad for him. If Kyler isn't top 10, it's like, okay, can he just be the 16th best quarterback in the league this year? Get something functional here, and you have depth at wide receiver with Juwan Jennings coming in. I think it's possible. So I like this team to potentially be better than the market thinks. They also have one of the easiest pass game schedules in the league. So again, there are concerns on Kyler, but I think the schedule can help mitigate that. They were 28th last year in strength of schedule. They're 16th this year. So you're thinking about just the road for success for a team that won 9 games last year. I don't think anybody should be surprised if we look up and all of a sudden the Vikings are back in the playoffs with 10 wins. It's just when the margin is not, super strong, I don't want to bet it. So for me, I think the number is good. I will stay away from Minnesota.
They are a team that I will bookmark as well because I could, if I had to pick one direction, it would be the over. But listen to weeks 8, 9, 10, and 11. At Detroit, Buffalo, at Green Bay, and at San Francisco.
It's a gauntlet.
Dude, that's a tough month for that team. But, I'm rooting for Kyler and them. To make the playoffs, I feel like it's not that great of a value. It's plus 150. I was trying to find something there, but we're not going to force an over. We will not do that.
Please no.
Let's go to the Lions, last team here. They're at 10.5, which is pretty crazy to be able to say that a team that is 4th place in the division is the betting favorite to win the division, but they have Warren Sharp's easiest strength of schedule. To win the division is at plus 185, and I found a really fun long shot bet if you're interested in it. There is a market out there on DK, most regular season wins, and they're at plus 1,400.
I saw that this morning as well when I was prepping for the show, and I was like, this feels right.
It's a sprinkle.
Yeah, like a 10th of a unit, quarter of a unit, something like that. I could buy that. Last year we were sellers in the Lions, if you recall. We took them to miss the playoffs. I think it was like plus 210. We took the under on their win total, and it didn't feel good, right? Because it's like, obviously the Lions are going to be a good team. But again, as we brought up last week, just chaos happens in the NFL. And so you want to think about kind of how things can go right or wrong from a schedule perspective. Last year, it was very difficult. No team in the league this year has an easier schedule than the Lions. I want to buy back in on the Lions. And I think this is a great year to do it because last year, you think about the issues they had. We obviously had a big chunk of the season, no Sam Laporta. They had offensive line injuries. So if they just get some better variance there, what an offense can do that we've seen for years has been awesome. Defensively, they were dead last in adjusted games lost in 2025. So if we get some positive variance on that side of the ball, I think this team can really, really, really be good. So obviously there's, it's a tough division and all those sort of things, but just the schedule I think is really, really nice. And the schedule down the stretch I think is really nice for the way Jared Goff plays, right? We always talk about like him under pressure, him in cold weather games. When you look at what the schedule looks like for this team in November and December when that happens, basically from like week, 8 on, there's not many concerns. Like they're home in a dome against Minnesota. They're on the road in week 9 against the Dolphins in South Florida. They're home against the Patriots, Bucks, and Bears. They go on the road to Mercedes-Benz, which I know imagine thinking you could go there and win a game, but another dome game. They're back home in another dome game against the Titans. They're away in another dome game against the Vikings. They're back home against the Giants. The two concerns are on the road in Chicago and Green Bay to close out the season.
The final 2 weeks.
The final 2 weeks. But outside of that, I think it just sets up so nicely for kind of some of those splits with Jared Goff. So the 4th place schedule, Giants, Cardinals, Titans, it's all there for this team to have a good year. So I like them at plus 185 to win the division. But if you wanted to throw another, like I said, quarter unit or something like that on them to lead the league in wins, that makes sense to me.
They are favored in 14 of their first 15 games. So that's pretty wild to be able to go and state that for a team. And yeah, you talked about what they drew. They drew the perfect home and away splits for a schedule. And then for a 4th place schedule, Giants at Arizona and Tennessee. That's such a gift for a team that we thought last year was good enough to be able to win the division. They didn't, but plus 185 to win the division is probably one of our stronger ones that we're going to give right now. Are you surprised by that price?
I kind of am, to be honest. I thought it'd be shorter, but I think it speaks to the strength of the division.
Yeah. The last thing I'll point out about the Lions is that you saw their defense and the way that they wanted to play defense, and they just didn't have the depth behind their guys, and they wanted to keep playing their same system. And it's like when Hutchinson goes down or Brian Branch, it's like you can't run the same system with the same players that aren't there. And that kind of hurt them. And the other thing I will add is if one of their big three, and I'm going to put Gibbs, Amon-Ra, or Jameson goes down, you could say it's about any team. They don't have the other things in place here. It's a thin team. I will say, like, I think at their strength, they can be maybe the best team in the league. But there are times when I look at this team and I'm like, man, if one thing breaks or goes wrong, like it could be shattered.
Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, though, it's like there aren't a lot of teams that have that trio. Like we're talking about the Commanders, and they've got Terry McLaurin and literally no one else.
And that's why they're a 7.5 team. Like that's the thing I can say about your Eagles is like there is some depth in place to be able to change things and adapt and on both sides of the ball. Very few teams can do that. And that happens because you have a good GM.
You know what? There's only one Hollywood Brown in the league, Kyle, and we got him. So Super Bowl or bust.
Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
The Memorial Day sale returns May 21st to 26th at Perigold, the destination for luxury home. Get ready to take up to 25% off Design's best brands. Start building your wish list now at Perigold.com.
Stitch Fix. Stop shopping. Get styled.
Not today, sweatpants. Somebody's wearing jeans that fit. Wow!
No photos, please. I'm just a regular dad who happens to have a stylist.
I really look my best when someone else makes the decisions.
Hey, we can all see you two-way mirrors.
Just share your size, style, and budget, and your stylist sends personalized looks right to your door. Stitch Fix. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
I want to hug you. I'm going to hug you. I'm coming in for a hug.
The NFC South, or really a division that's looking around at each other saying, you guys suck. You guys suck. You guys suck. We can totally win this division. The Panthers, who won the division last year, have the lowest win total of any team here. The Panthers, depending on your book, they're either at 6.5, 7.5, which we'll talk about. The Buccaneers at 8.5. The Falcons eternally stuck at 7.5. And the Saints at 7.5. Just to get a Falcons take out of the way. Just completely out of the way. I sent Betz.
Hammer it.
I sent Betz a picture of I have a spreadsheet that shows every team's win total and what they did over the last 15 years. And since 2018, this has been the Falcons. Under, over 1 year. But the win total is at 4.5. Under.
Run. Don't walk.
Run.
To your sportsbook and place it under.
Oh, man.
Should we start with the Falcons? Let's start with the Falcons. Come on.
I really don't have much to say other than to give you a really depressing stat. The Falcons were the only team in 2025 that were leading or tied on 60+% of their snaps that did not make the playoffs. Everybody else made the playoffs except for the Falcons.
So what you're saying is they have some regression signals telling us it could work.
They got a lot out of their pass rush for the first time in probably my lifetime. Like they've never had a pass rush. So that's part of the equation that did change. They have a new coaching staff. Don't really understand why Kevin Stefanski isn't calling plays, but whatever. And
who's calling plays?
Tommy Rees, the OC.
Oh, okay.
So
is this one of those like
the Browns coaching staff is coming over and saying we're going to do what we did with the Browns?
Is this one of those where it's like Sean Payton says he's not calling plays, but like he's we know his fingerprints are all over the game plan? Like, is it one of those, or because I don't know much about Tommy Rees, if I'm being honest.
Oh man, what a fun college quarterback he was at Notre Dame back.
I remember those days, but like in the NFL, I don't really know much of his.
I mean, he was calling plays last year.
We saw how good that team was.
Yeah, Falcons are a stay away team. 7.5. I joke every single year, like my friends come and look at the schedule and they say, oh, I could see 11 wins is our ceiling. I could see that, but we're definitely hitting 9 or 10.
Yeah, you talked about some of the fragile teams, man. Like, if Drake London happens to go down, goodness gracious. I mean, Bijan is a unicorn, yes, but like Jahan Dotson and Zachariah Branch, like, brother. brother. I will also say the quarterback is a concern, obviously.
In this game? In
the
NFL?
In this game, that position matters, just a little bit. So, yeah, they have the biggest home field advantage in the league. We have to give them credit for that. But I can't take anything over on the Falcons. I think the number is right. I would stay away.
You mentioned earlier that the Lions play the Falcons. It's week 13. That is totally going to be the one game we show up for, isn't it?
That's going to be the one. They're going to be like 8.5 point underdogs in that game and somehow come out with a win.
That always happens. The Panthers are interesting because they go from having one of the easiest schedules in the league last year to now they're ranked 30th. So third hardest schedule according to Warren Sharp. And I do need to give the caveat on some books, they are at 6.5 wins. And at others, they're at 7.5 wins. We will be looking at their 7.5 because in my schedule adjusted projections, I had them at 6.3 wins. So before looking at 7.5, I was already leaning towards an under. And then seeing a 7.5 out there, I was like, let's run to the book right now.
Yeah, best line I found on this was -125 on MGM. I also see -130 on DraftKings. I think both those numbers are good. If you wanted to play that for like a full unit and put like another quarter unit on under 6.5 at +130, I think that's interesting as well. Like some alt unders here make a lot of sense to me. I'm just telling that this team is any good, right? Like this is a team that is only favored in 3 games this year. Those games are the Browns, the Saints, and the Falcons. And it's the Falcons in week 18, which like weird stuff can happen when you get to that time of the year, right? So they're only favored in 3 games. Weeks 4 through 17, goodness gracious. Listen to the run out, okay? We get Lions, Eagles, Bucks, Packers, Broncos, Saints, Ravens, Bucks again, Vikings, Saints, Bengals, Steelers, Seahawks. That is brutal. And then you think about just this team last year, right? Like, yeah, they won 8 games. Yeah, they won the division. They didn't win a division. Nobody won a division last year in this division. They happened to be in a tiebreaker position to get in the playoffs. And like, sure, it's a fun story and all those sort of things, but like, if you just look at the numbers and kind of what happened last year, this was not a good team. They were 27th in points per game. They were 26th in EPA per play on offense, despite having one of the easiest schedules in the league last year. You already mentioned it gets a lot tougher this year. 7 of their 8 wins last year were within 1 score. That's a natural regression signal. 6 of 8 were by a field goal. This team is, this is my biggest stance, I think, of the entire season, under 7.5 on this team. I don't believe that this is a well-rounded, good team. Bryce Young is kind of stabilized the ship, right? Like, it's like, okay, maybe he's the starter here moving forward. I still don't know if that's the truth, but like, they don't really have the infrastructure in place to support him truthfully. Like, I think Ted McMillan is an awesome wide receiver. Jalen Coker's fine. Xavier Legette is not it. I didn't love Chris Brazzell. Like, Chuba's not really it. Like, they don't really have enough there to support Bryce Young to be an offense that matters, in my opinion, this year. And so you're looking at that saying, well, okay, they did that last year and they weren't that good last year with one of the easiest schedules in the league. Now they have one of the most difficult schedules in the league. It's the 4th biggest delta from easy to difficult year over year. So under 7.5 will be my biggest play of the year.
I am with you on a couple different levels. I mean, they're like you mentioned their 1-score games. Like, they were just a weird team. They trailed, so not tied. They trailed on 61% of their offensive snaps. That was 27th in the NFL. You look at every other team that trailed over 50% of the time. None of them made the playoffs. And then here's the Panthers at 27th, and they did make the playoffs. So very fluky season. They did invest a lot in the offensive line. You and I talked about that on the Dynasty podcast, that they have the largest cap hit of any team in the NFL at over $100 million on the offensive line. They also took a first-round offensive tackle. I like that. I like that they want to build that way, and they kind of need to build that way. But these skill position players outside of Tetairoa McMillan do not excite me. And Chuba, they're betting on him being a lead back, but he's the least explosive back in the league. So it's like they need something out of Jonathan Brooks. They don't really have anything in the tight end room that really matters. So the offensive skill position players, and then you look at the defenses that they're going to face, it seems like just an easy sell.
Yeah, for sure. Especially considering last year they had a negative point differential and made the playoffs. And not just negative differential, they were third in their own division in that single stat, that metric, minus 69. They were third in their division in point differential, yet they made the playoffs as the quote-unquote champion. So there's just so many signals saying that this team will not be good this year that your projections show it. The schedule's tough, all those things. So let's go under 7.5.
Well, you know why? It's because they beat the Falcons 30-0 in week 3. That helped the point
Imagine
differential.
if that was like a normal, like 17-point win. Imagine what the point differential would really look like. Goodness gracious.
Buccaneers, they were 8-9 this past season. They started off 6-2, and then after their bye, 2-7. So it was a nosedive at the end of the year. They're at 8.5 wins this year. It's juiced towards the under at minus 130. I don't have a ton to say about this team. They are changing offensive coordinators. Zach Robinson, who was with the Falcons, now will be with them. And apart from Mike Evans, is pretty much the same crew. You add Kenneth Gainwell. They're betting on Egbuka to be their one, and they're kind of betting on Baker to be somewhere in the middle of where he was. Remember, at the beginning of the year, he was super hot, and then, was there some injury concerns with him in the back half of the year?
So there wasn't anything that was disclosed, like nothing official, but it seemed like he was playing through something.
Okay. Anything you want to add about the Bucs?
They're a tough team because you can obviously see how it goes well, but at the same time, they do feel kind of fragile, right? Like Baker has had very high highs in the league. We've also seen the lows. So it's like, what version are we getting this year? I'm not sure. I will say they had a bunch of offensive line injuries last year, so I think they'll get the right side of variance there, which obviously helps the entire team. But looking at the schedule, like they do get some of these second place games, which are not easy, obviously, right? Like Rams, Cowboys, Chargers, that's very tough. This is a division that plays the AFC North, so you're talking about games against the Bengals, the Steelers, and the Ravens. Like, then they have to play the NFC North. So I don't want to bet an over on a team that just has kind of a gauntlet of a schedule here, which we already brought up with the Panthers. But just for context, Panthers are 30th in the league in strength of schedule. The Bucs are 23rd, so it's not an easy path by any means. So I'll be staying away from Tampa. I can kind of see it going either direction.
Yeah, you mean like they could go 8-9 or 9-8?
I kind of hope that happens again with this division. That would be so funny.
I do like that they took Ruben Bain. I feel like everything I like him in the media too, to be basically like, I don't give a fart about any of you guys. I'm here to just rip people's heads off.
Well, he can't be very good at football because he has short arms. So, I mean, his career's already over.
The Saints, last team here, short little story here. Today, took my kids to swim practice. And I'm sitting with a fellow Falcons fan. And he's asked, hey, what'd you do for your job today? I was like, I was just writing up, about the Saints running game and, what it's like, their cap situation. And he's like, why would you do that? He's like, as a Falcons fan, could not fathom that I could sit there and like logically think about the Saints. And all I said was, I feel like they're moving in the right direction.
I think they are too. I mean, we're huge fans of Kellen Moore.
Yeah. I tried to explain that too. He's like, why would you be? I was like, this guy's been great wherever he's been.
We saw it last year, right? It took a while to get there. Thanks a lot, Spencer Rattler. But the scheme is in place. I'm excited about Tyler Shuck. I will say there's something in the back of my mind that it's like we're extrapolating a very small sample, and everybody is on board. Like I haven't found anybody that's like Tyler Shuck's a bad pick this year, man. Or nobody's giving the bear case on Tyler Shuck in year 2, which I don't want to come out here and say like is going to happen because I want them to be good. I think they will be good. I'm drafting them in best ball like they're going to be good. So I will say just there's something in the back of my mind that's like we're not really considering that this is even a possibility. But at the same time, you think about the positives, right? Like Kellen Moore has always gotten good play from his scheme and his quarterback, generally speaking. We have Chris Olave, who we're huge fans of. They add Jordan Tyson, 8th overall. They invest in the offensive line. The offensive line, I think, could be better than most people realize. So I think the offense can be good. The problem for me is defensively, I'm not sure that the team will hold up their end of the bargain. So all in all, they're a fun team, I think, more for fantasy than I want to like bet on, but the schedule is there. It's favorable. It is second easiest in the league. So I wouldn't be shocked if this team won the division, right? We just talked about that. Like all these teams could be at 8 wins or 9 wins, and kind of whoever gets the tiebreaker wins it. So if you want to talk me into like a long shot there for plus odds, I don't hate that, but otherwise, I'm not going to play the Saints.
They're at plus 265, which is
it's kind of intriguing.
Well, what's really intriguing is, these teams all kind of feel similar, but the Buccaneers are at plus 160. Then you have the Saints at plus 265, the Panthers at plus 310, and then my Falcons at plus 450. Just daring us to bet this team. I think the Saints is probably the one that intrigues me the most here. So, well, I mean, Tyler Shuck, to go back to that conversation, he's QB 19 in best ball. He's kind of been in the same exact range. We had him a little bit ahead of this. So his ADP's moved up a little. I think it's just like, you don't lose that much for being bullish on QB 19.
Right, for sure. And this is a different conversation for best ball and for betting a win total, right? Where it's like, on a win total, it's very binary, right? Did you go over or under? But like in best ball, it's like, oh, Tyler Shuck finished as the quarterback 7 this year, and Chris Olave was great, and Jordan Tyson was great, and these guys are all pretty cheap. It's like the entire offense can roll for a quarterback that's just underpriced. So I would not, for anybody out there listening, I would not like put those two on the same division of like what you're doing from your bankroll perspective. Yes. It's very, very different. So love this team in best ball. I am hesitant the defense can help them win enough games.
I loved hearing your hesitancy though about Chuck. Just like, why is nobody bringing up this other side of the case?
I mean, we've seen this before, right? With rookies that kind of come out surprising people. It's like, oh, well, obviously in year 2, it's only going to be better. It's like, I don't know. What if it's worse? What if regression happens? As a prospect, everybody mocked Tyler Shuck, right? Like,
I certainly never made fun of his age on a podcast.
Exactly. And people definitely weren't sharing that clip on social media where he like,
I shared that one a lot.
So I'm just saying, like, I think we need to take a step back and understand there is downside with Tyler Shuck potentially, though I hope it works because I'm drafting the crap out of him in best ball.
All right, last division we got to bring up is the NFC West. A lot of heavy hitters here. Seattle's at 10.5. The Rams are at 11.5. The 49ers at 10.5. And the Cardinals, who are still currently, as of this recording, playing in the NFL, at 4.5 with the hardest strength of schedule in the league. Congratulations. Let's start with the Seahawks. They were incredibly healthy last year. They had the 3rd fewest games lost due to injury in the NFL. That happens usually on a Super Bowl run. And not that it's like because they were healthy, they won't be healthy this year, but I just even think about those Eagles teams. It's like, okay, you had this Super Bowl run, and like just knowing the way that chaos works in the NFL, like things will shift, things will change the next year, and it did happen to them. So what do you think about the way this team is structured? Because there are some fragile parts to the offense heading into 2016. It's like JSN, and we're betting on this rookie at running back.
Well, it's also just natural regression, right? Like JSN averaged like 12 yards per out run last year. It's just not, obviously it wasn't that high. What was like 3.7 or something stupid? Like that just, it's hard to do that, right? Think about all those plays where you turn on red zone and you're like, oh, there's another play action shot to JSN 40 yards down the field. Those things just don't happen year over year, generally speaking. So I think there's some natural regression on that efficiency. We're big fans of Coobs. They lose their offensive coordinator, who I think had a huge hand in how the offense played last year. So there's some natural regression there. There's uncertainty on the running back position. Zach Charbonnet is coming off a late season torn ACL. The depth at wide receiver, I think, is okay. It's not great. Obviously, Cooper Kupp another year older. So all in all, like, I'm not going to bet against the Seahawks. They have a good team for a reason. They won the Super Bowl for a reason. But I just think they're a team that's a tough sell on over when you consider how well things went last year. And again, the road is not going to be easy.
Yep. I think I'd rather invest in them to win the division at plus odds than try to figure out their win total. Although, if they win the division, we're probably saying they're going to go to 11 or 12 wins. They're at 14 this past year. So my son was looking at this earlier. I was going through this doc, and he was just asking a simple question. Who are the best teams? That was his question. And so we looked at the schedule, and I was like, hey, this team won 14. And this other team in the AFC won 14. And he goes, did they go to the Super Bowl? And they did. It's Patriots and Seahawks. It was just, he's like, Dad, that's so easy.
It's so easy, dude. Come on.
It was pretty straightforward. So I think Seahawks to win the division at plus 160 is okay if you want to go in that direction. The Rams is going to be the one that we feel strongest about. And my projections feel really strong. Betz was working out, feeling strong for his Ironman, his half Ironman, and he was like, hey, I'm feeling strong about this Rams under. 11.5. Talk to me.
I'm scared, Kyle, because we both came to the same conclusion, and they are the betting favorite to win the Super Bowl. So we are basically saying, Vegas, you idiots, you odds makers out there, you guys are
clowns.
Idiots. I mean, come on. So it is scary. But we talked about this with the Ravens last week. It is hard to win 12 games in the NFL. You need a lot to go right. And when you think about the discourse around the Rams last year, right? For like 3 months straight, all we talked about was Matthew Stafford's back. And yes, he got over it and he got through it and he was amazing last year. Truthfully amazing. It is hard to be amazing again when you are another year older, and that back concern is not going away, right? Like, he's dealt with injuries in his career. He's a little older, obviously. Devontae Adams, I don't want to say is at the age cliff, but I think he's getting very, very close. He dealt with some injury last year. And we've talked about this, throughout the draft cycle. Like, everybody said they're going to get another weapon at 13. They're really going to push for the Super Bowl. I believe that, right? Like, I took the over on Ty Simpson. I think it was like 24.5 in the draft. I did not see the Rams doing this. So the Rams have kind of trying to middle it when it comes to their future and success now. And in my opinion, that's not the optimal way to go for it. So if Puka happens to go down, if Devontae happens to go down, where you're talking about 4 tight ends and Kanata Mumfield and Jordan Whittington, right? So they are just so top heavy and so fragile that you could see the offense taking a step back, especially considering Matthew Stafford's touchdown rate last year is certainly coming down. So there's just a lot of signs to say repeating greatness in the NFL is very, very hard to do. This feels a lot like the Lions last year, the Eagles last year, where it's like, hey, they're going to be a good team, but they might only win 10 games. They might only win 11 games and still get in the playoffs and maybe win a couple playoff games. But winning 12 games is hard, especially when last season is the standard. Right now, they have a more difficult schedule, I should say, this year than they did a year ago. And we talked about some of their second place games with other teams in this show. They get the Packers, the Bucks, and the Bills for their second place schedule.
All right, so they're if you look at their season in chunks, the first 5 weeks, it would not shock me if they went 1-4 and 2-3 in that first 5-week chunk. When they play 49ers in the first week, which really is just a coin flip game against Kyle Shanahan. The Giants at home, where they're going to be heavy favorites, but then at Denver, at Philly. Imagine walking into that place, Lincoln Financial Field, right?
Good luck.
And then they play the Bills. That first 5 weeks is a tough stretch. Then they have this middle where it's a bunch of gimmies. All right, they have the Cardinals twice. They have the Raiders. They play in the Battle of Los Angeles against the Chargers. I mean, what a bloodbath against the Chargers. And then they play Washington. But then after their Week 11 bye, looks so hard. They play the Seahawks twice. They play the Chiefs, the Packers. I mean, they have a really hard NFC schedule. So I like the under here. And I also think that things can play out for this team if it's Stafford's injury or they turn it over, they figure out some of these players are older and they're tanking season. Don't forget, Sean McVay has had seasons where they've come up really, really big and then they've just bottomed out because Stafford was hurt. Same thing with the 49ers, right? They've had seasons a year before it was 6 wins. So I think there's some routes here for this team to go. If you wanted to do under 10.5, under 9.5, it's on the table to me.
I saw plus 260 to miss the playoffs. That's intriguing.
Value?
Tell me about value, Kyle. One other thing with this team, which is not great for a very veteran-heavy team, is they are bottom 10 in net rest differential. We talked about that metric with another team previously.
Old guys need to rest.
The old guys need to rest, and they also travel the second most miles in the league this year.
Man, it feels scary to bet against a team that we love watching play football. Stafford's an all-timer, McVay's an all-timer, Puka's basically been the greatest wide receiver of all time through 3 seasons. And yet we're saying, hey,
that's the team you want to fade.
That's the team you want to definitely get away from. Quickly with the 49ers, a lot of injuries. We've known that over the years. Purdy missed a bunch of weeks. Pearsall missed weeks. Kittle missed a ton. Brandon Ayuk doesn't want to show up because he's a big baby.
Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, just the list goes. Mykal Williams, the first round pick last year. Kyle Shanahan is a freaking genius, dude. Like, how this team won as many games as they did with the injuries they had, hat tip to you, sir.
I think with CMC, it's a different conversation for best ball, but he's coming off of the most touches of any running back since DeMarco Murray in 2014. So
what did he do the next year?
Not great, buddy. Not great at all. Also, the way that they use CMC is inside the red zone. He was the plan with Kittle banged up a ton. Like, he tied Amon-Ra for the league lead in red zone receptions, which for a running back, he's the first one to ever do that. So it's like the way that they function as an offense, he was inefficient as a runner, and then they started to throw inside the red zone. I just think you can't repeat that year over year for any player, but especially your running back. So we'll see. Mike Evans can change the makeup of this team. I actually like the spot better for Pearsall now, like in what he gets to be. But it's a good team, and it's a good play caller, so I just want to probably stay away.
I agree. I think they're kind of fragile, but at the same time, you think about, like, they had probably the worst injury luck in the league last year. If they just happen to come back on the other side of that, then you could see this team being very, very good. The problem is all of their key players are coming off significant injuries, so it's not just like, oh, they'll be healthy week one and it's no problem. Like, it could linger a little bit is all I would say. But yeah, I don't want to bet against Kyle Shanahan after what he's done for years as a head coach.
Speaking of betting against, it seems like the entire world is betting against the Arizona Cardinals being still in the league, but at 4.5, the unders at -130. They are -20,000 to miss the playoffs.
Value. There's still value there. You got to take it.
Just to show somebody that you did it?
Yeah, exactly. They are the also favorite in the league to have the fewest wins. I saw +250 on that. Feels like a square bet, but...
No, at +250, I don't mind it. There is another market I saw. Is there any team to finish the regular season winless? The yes is at +900.
Come on, they'll win one game. Against the Jets.
Will the Dolphins win a game?
Yes, they'll win a game.
Okay. +900 tempted me. It's like looking at those two teams, like, could one of them? I don't think they will throw as much as they did last year. They were number one in early down pass rate. Jacoby Brissett starts 40 pass attempts per game. We've talked about Trey McBride too as best ball. Like, hey, I don't think I could pay this price. Nobody likes hearing that. But this team also had pretty bad injury luck as well. If you look at Kyler not starting a game, their running back room was trash, and Marvin Harrison missed a bunch down the stretch. I think there's ways to buy into this team in the cheaper aspect of like Marv or Michael Wilson in best ball. But in terms of wins, do you still lean towards the under?
I lean under, but it just seems too obvious.
I hate paying an under of 4.5.
I did it with the Dolphins.
The thing about the Cardinals, if we're just going to...
speechless.
It's true. The thing about the Cardinals, if we're walking through their schedule and we're looking at the divisional matchups, they play the NFC East. They also play the AFC West. So games against Denver, at Kansas City, at the Chargers. They have the Lions at home as one of their placement games. There's just no gifts on the schedule.
Nobody has a harder schedule in the league this year for a team that's motivated to get the first pick.
So then do I just like not mess with them? Because they're not favored in any games. And then the one shining spot that you see on the schedule, you go, okay, they are coming off a week 14 bye.
An elite season bye? Goodness, dude.
But then they're going to be rested up. They're going to be ready. Play the Jets at home. Week 15. That's the game that's going to determine the number one pick.
It's going to be very fun. I can't wait. It's under or nothing. Or just if you want to take them to have the fewest wins in the league, that feels like a totally square bet, but I mean, I could see it.
I'm glad you used the catchphrase because it'll be very easy to title this episode. NFC Win Totals, under or nothing.
There you go. Under or nothing, baby.
It feels like a Nike slogan that we just stumbled upon, and we just got right into it. So that's going to do it for this episode, Betz. Sign us off.
Yes, hopefully everybody enjoys the weekend and the week. We'll be back next week for more best ball talk as we look ahead. Best ball primer, update best ball rankings, and UDK release Have a great week. We'll catch you then. See ya.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers DFS and Betting Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at thefantasyfootballers.com.
Tires matter. They're the only part of your vehicle that touches the road. Tread confidently with new tires from Tire Rack. Whether you're looking for expert recommendations or know exactly what you want, Tire Rack makes it easy. Fast, free shipping, free road hazard protection, and convenient installation options. Go to TireRack.com to see tire test results, tire ratings, and consumer reviews, and be sure to check out all the special offers. TireRack.com, the way tire buying should be.
Stitch Fix. Stop shopping. Get styled.
Not today, sweatpants. Somebody's wearing jeans that fit. Wow!
No photos, please. I'm just a regular dad who happens to have a stylist.
I really look my best when someone else makes the decisions.
Hey, we can all see you two-way mirrors.
Just share your size, style, and budget, and your stylist sends personalized looks right to your door. Stitch Fix. Get started today at StitchFix.com.
I want to hug you. I'm going to hug you. I'm coming in for a hug.